Well, that sucked.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Andrew Chang and Justin Goddard.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo Fan Base Network. Before we get started with today's episode, which, we got a lot to talk about, to say the least, I do want to say that this episode is sponsored by 26 Shirts. If you're not really sure what 26 Shirts is, you need to know, but basically it's a social good project founded by Del Reed, the co-founder of Bill's Mafia, a movement on social media to help families and charitable foundations in need. And their primary focus is to help give aid to, health and medical concerns or unexpected family emergencies. So really good stuff with what 26 Shirts and Del Reed is doing. So if you haven't had the chance to check them out, definitely do so. All right. So more stuff to get into before we get into today's episode, which is not going to be fun to talk about. But we have a special guest. Our special guest today is the one, the only, T. Estelle from Not Your Average Podcast in the 716. T, how are you doing today? We might have lost her, but that's okay. She'll be back. Oh, there you are. T, how you doing today? Oh,
I'm good. I'm sorry, guys. I'm outside, so.
You are perfectly fine. I thought we lost you for a second, but yeah. So, and then I got my co-host here, Justin Goddard at JGods22. But let's get into today's episode, and it's not going to be fun because the Bills have fallen to the Miami Dolphins in Miami, a score of 21-19. What can only be explained to me personally as missed opportunities. And I mean, we'll get into everything right now, but let's first talk about the offense. We'll take a break from there, and then we'll go into defense. But let's start off with our guy, Josh Allen, because he went 42 of 63, which is a career high in terms of completions, throws 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. Definitely some plays that he would like to have back, and I think we all can agree with that. Some interesting throws, just situations, maybe he got hit below the belt, throwing people's helmets off, and no pun intended, but it seemed like the heat kind of got to this team in multiple ways. But we'll start things off with Josh Allen, as he is the man. Okay?
Yeah, I thought overall Josh had a great day for what we've come to expect from Josh Allen. Kind of more of the same of what we've gotten used to. Seeing him throw 63 times, that's a little bit extreme for me, and that's where we'll get into the running game, but where we need to find some balance with the running game, some more success there, because he also adds on a bunch of carries on the ground. Despite his great game, the one that's going to stick out to me, to Bill's Mafia, that throw at the end of the game, 4th down, I mean, he had McKenzie. That was a tutty. And there was one throw last week where I talked about we don't really...
The Jake Kumaro out?
Yeah, I talked about it last week. We don't really see those missed throws from Josh Allen anymore. Mm-hmm. And for a guy that, the knock on him was he'll never develop his accuracy. He's come a super far way, but just that one, it's going to sting a while. But overall, great day from him. Can't ask too much more from him at a certain point.
It's so fresh for me. So, I've been talking about this game for the last 30 minutes with my people at the house, and for me, I think it should never came down to that last throw with McKenzie and everything. We've seen our team do spectacular things, and for Josh Allen to throw a ball that was in the dirt bothered me a little bit. So I'm still stuck on the fact that Miami won this game.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate. It looks like we're losing T here due to some technical difficulties here, but yeah, and I think the name of the game here that we're all talking about is missed
Miami
opportunities. Oh, there you are.
I'm sorry. I hear about Tua being this guy and he's the man, and Tua didn't win the game for Miami today. And
I agree with that.
And that's where I'm at with everything right now. So I'm really disgusted. But I know my team is better than this. And yeah, so yeah, that's where I'm at.
No worries. Yeah, so you kind of cut out there for a second. So what I was saying is that the name of this game was missed opportunities, and that fourth and goal pass that didn't happen to McKenzie's was pretty much a microcosm of today's game. And it's not like the Bills had a bad approach. They basically limited Miami's opportunities to next to nothing. We're talking about 20 minutes of possession versus 40 minutes in favor of the Bills, and the Bills just missed on some opportunities, like that missed field goal. We wouldn't be talking about this conversation right now, potentially. Gabe Davis not catching that, pass. That super deep, long pass to Waddle, which shouldn't have happened. And let me preface this by saying that I understand there was a lot of injuries. The heat was a factor. And this was a tough matchup because of those hurdles, but these aren't excuses, okay? I don't really believe in excuses. I believe in explanations, and that's what we're trying to give to you, because there's nothing what we're gonna say here that's gonna make this win or this loss go away. That's just not how football works. But I know this team, and I know that this is going to suck for them. They got a long trip back up north, and we got another game to play in a week. So I think that's where the mentality of this team is. So again, there's no excuses, just explanations. At least that's how I'm looking at it. And
the rookies didn't do anything to mess this game up. Like the rookies, the second team year, like guys didn't do anything to cause this game, to cause us to lose this game at all.
Yeah, I just really think that it was a level of execution, and Miami took advantage of the 20 minutes that they had on the field, and the Bills chose to really stretch the game out on their end, and on paper it worked. Almost 500 yards on 9 drives, about 382 through the air, like Jesus, like 115 on the ground. The penalties, we got 7 for 52, so they got to clean up those. The fumble lost opportunity, or the fumble on Allen, and then the Dolphins punch it in on that. The deep pass on 3rd and 22, like the Dolphins made it on there. If I told you that the Bills held the ball and for 40 minutes and ran 90 plays and had almost 500 total yards of offense, you would just be like, the Bills must have destroyed them. But it didn't happen, and I can only point to the fact that it was an execution error.
Yeah,
and it sucks.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting about this game is we kind of saw Buffalo come in with a game plan strategy that we see used against us a lot, right? A lot of ball possession, keep the other team off the field. They have Waddle, they have Tyreek Hill, they have these very twitchy, explosive athletes that can, hit the home run play at any given time. So let's just keep them off the field and limit their opportunities. And I think that I'm not saying that was a bad strategy for this game. Like you said, it kind of worked to an extent. We had controlled the ball. We dominated, yards gained. Our offense was firing on all cylinders. Where I think we run into issues with this game plan is kind of having the running game be able to take some of that load off of the passing game and keep the chains moving and keep the clock moving. And when I'm looking at the rushing stats at the end of the game, they're a bit inflated because Zach Moss snaps off that beautiful 43-yard run. But I talked about this last week. You take that one run out of it, he had 3 carries for 3 yards. Singletary, 9 carries for 13 yards. James Cook, 1 carry for 3 yards. So we're really getting nothing out of the running game in this game.
To be fair, we pretty much had no consistency from the line today. And again, this is an explanation, not an excuse. And I'm going to keep saying that over and over again because that is what it is. From the center over it was not consistent. And I can point to specific things like that weird fumble thing that Allen had to do to snap the ball when he's trying to spike it. But first of all, I don't even know. In my head, initially, I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Spike the ball, kick the field goal, let's go into half. And then after a while, it basically came into light that once that snap is kind of botched, if you try to spike it into the ground, it's intentional grounding. And if you do that, then you're really out of field goal range. So I don't know how Allen had the mental capacity at that moment to just go like, oh, wait, I can't do that. Let me just throw this to Diggs and just hope for the best. Like, I mean, what else is Allen supposed to do in that situation? So,
but not even that. The forward, I thought that was a forward pass when he fumbled the quote unquote fumbled the ball. I thought that
I think he actually. I don't know who was blocking him, but I think he got him on the way back before it went forward.
There was a lot of questionable calls during this game.
Yeah, like that Jaquan Johnson. I mean, we'll get into the penalties, but like, you know that. All right, we'll talk about the Jaquan Johnson. And
penalty. You know what? The penalties to me, it's in a void. I don't care. Like I don't care about all of that. I just thought that the Bills shot themselves in the foot. Period.
Yeah.
When it came to a lot of things. So.
Yeah. And to touch back onto the rushing aspect that Justin brought up, I would agree. You know, I didn't think that the running game was working, and you could just tell Dorsey was quick to shift out of that. And I'm not so sure that if Brian Daboll was here, if he would have been so quick to change his game plan, because that was the one criticism of Brian Daboll, right? Sometimes he's too stubborn, and it takes him too long to adjust. With Dorsey, from what I've seen, is like he's quick. He's quick to notice like, hey, I gotta do something different here, and we saw that in the uptick of passing attempts from Allen to 63. So I would say that the running game was very lackluster, but again, to be fair, the line was just not consistent in front of them. So like, what are they supposed to do? And it's funny because right when Zach Moss, right before he rips off that, what was it, 40 yard run? I can't remember.
43.
It was long. 43. All these people around me are like groaning that Zach Moss is in the game. And, for me, to be fair, I was kind of like, oh, God, I just want Singletary or Cook in there. I need someone more consistent. And then he just rips that off and just shuts everyone up. And I was like, everyone, keep talking shit about Zach Moss. Good things are going to happen. Oh, man. Good times. So let's talk about the wide receivers here. In total, the wide receivers, 42 catches, 400 yards. Jeez, that's so much. 40 catches, 400 yards, 9.5 yards on average, 2 touchdowns, along with 28, 57 total targets. Damn, that's a lot. How do you feel about that, Justin?
So I thought the receivers overall had a pretty good game, and I want to throw the running backs in here too because I did just criticize them. I think this game we saw kind of that Dorsey, how he wants to use the running backs in the passing game, and we had great success there. I mean, Singletary leads the team in receptions and yardage. He had 9 catches, 78 yards, adds a touchdown. And then we see James Cook get involved, 4 catches, 37 yards. Like, that's great. I'm glad to see that. My only complaint really with the receivers here is I thought Gabe Davis had kind of a lackluster game. I don't know how close to 100% he was. We did see 1 or 2 very uncharacteristic drops from him, and I'm going to chalk that up to kind of not being 100%, because Gabe Davis has 2 of the most sure hands that I've seen in a very long time. And then there was also a drop in there somewhere from Diggs. It was kind of running with this theme of, you know, the missed opportunities where, you know, Josh is putting that ball in there, and like, I see this play happening on TV. It's going to Diggs. It's going to Davis. And, like, I could walk away from the TV set 9 times out of 10 and not even wonder whether or not that was a catch. And just had a few of those hit the ground today. And
yeah, I think the one that sticks out to me is that touchdown that would have been, but it didn't happen. Yeah, T, I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, for me, I thought it was the touchdown. Like, I was hoping that Sean would have challenged that, because I thought that he had 2 feet in. It was 1-2, and then the ball dropped. So for me, I thought it was a touchdown, and I was surprised. And Sean doesn't do what we want him to do anyway. But yeah, I was also underwhelmed with the play of Diggs. Like, I was just hoping that Josh would continue with his play with Diggs this game as well. But like you said about when it came to Gabe Davis, we don't know what the percentage of Gabe is healthy or not, and the same ankle that he injured last year. So, I mean, I don't know. And then touchdown Jesus went down as well. So
yeah,
man, I don't know. I think we're a little banged up, and it's still at the beginning of the season. And I just figured that the defense would have came through, and they did, not for nothing. I'm just, I hate losing, so I'm in a space right now where it's just like, this is not a game that we should have lost, and not like it's going to define our season at all, but it's just a little bit disappointing, to say the least. That's it, you know.
Yeah, it definitely, that's all that this loss is for me. It's disappointment. And man, I gotta tell you, I really thought, like, and this is awesome, right? From my point of view at least, I really thought to myself, like, the Bills are gonna sneak out a win here with everything that's going on, with all these injuries, with the butt fumble that Thomas Morstead decided to do with the safety.
And they almost did too.
That's crazy.
Everything that's going on, like the Micah Hyde, we got news with Micah Hyde and all of this stuff, and we had to do we have rookie corners.
Oh yeah,
starting, and as a fan, I know I was stressed out. I get stressed out with all the games, so that's nothing new to me. But with all the injuries that happened with this team, and you still almost won the game with a guy that just went into it last week scoring all these touchdowns, and you're going to play at their house and with all our injuries. So I'm excited for that, but I'm disappointed that we lost.
Oh, yeah. And you know what's crazy, too, is that, like, there was this narrative that, and this goes back to what you said, like, Tua didn't beat us. And I would agree with that, because I'm trying to remember what Tyreek Hill did. Oh, yeah, he did. He caught the ball twice for 33 yards, but Waddle, you know, it's kind of like a pick your poison, I guess, and Waddle had 4 catches for 102 yards. Sucks, right? But, you know, they picked their poison. They gave up the defense gave up whatever they could, but in general, I feel like the defense did a pretty sound job, all things considered. I would have liked to see more from that defensive line, but to your point, there were so many injuries, and we're talking about, and this is just all the injuries, not just to the defense, and we'll get to the defense in here in a general, but we're talking about Spencer Brown, heat illness, Jake Kumro, Khalil Shakir, Mitch Morris, Jordan Poyer, Tommy Sweeney, Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, Dane Jackson, Christian Benford. The list just keeps going on and on.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to touch on. I know we're going to get a deep dive into the defense coming up here. But just overall, like we were just talking about, there wasn't a doubt in my mind when we see that punt go off their own players behind and we get the safety and we're getting the ball back. There wasn't a doubt in my mind that we were winning that game. And with some of the explosive players they have on that offense, how kind of potent that offense has looked so far through the season, to be able to go into this game, look like, if we're honest with ourselves, we all knew going into this game that this was going to be a tough matchup. And you're talking, our secondary, if you don't include Taron Johnson, has a combined 3 starts between them. You're talking Jaquan Johnson, DeMar Hamlin, 2 guys that, haven't had significant playing time. Oh, and not to mention, most of these guys back there are like 6th-round picks from a couple of years ago. So players that we've been developing, but then you see Benford go down in the game as well, and then we see, his name's going to escape me right now.
What happened with Benford? I forgot.
He had a hand injury. Yeah.
And speaking of hand injuries, Josh Allen had to get an X-ray on his hand, but at the presser he said I'm good. But I mean, last time I checked, when you have to get an X-ray, it's not ideal.
Was it his throwing hand? I can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But he said that he said at the post-game presser, he's like, yeah, I'm good. So I assume he's fine. Like, I was more concerned when he was walking out of that Tampa Bay game with a boot. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the defensive efforts here by the Bills. Stick around.
Hey, this is Dick DeGroat, Bill's dad. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to recap the rest of this episode by talking about the Bills' defense now. Again, you can find our podcast, the Wandering Buffalo Podcast, here on the Buffalo Fanbase Network by searching up on most social media and podcasting platforms by searching up the Wandering Buffalo Podcast. And we have a special guest, if you didn't know. Again, the one, the only Tia Stell from Not Your Average Podcast in the 716, part of the Built-In Buffalo Network. So thanks again for being on this episode, T. Let's talk about this defense. So we alluded to some of the stuff in the first portion of this episode, but T, why don't you just kind of share your overall thoughts about what happened on defense here, and we'll just take it by ear, because that's how this episode's going, and I'm liking it.
So listen, I don't know. Listen, I love the fact that Vaughn is here, right? You paid him this money. I don't know what Vaughn was today, and don't get me wrong. Like I might get some backlash for the fact that I'm saying I need Vaughn to be present, because. Mm-hmm. And I understand that Vaughn is making every player on that team, on that line, better. But I need Vaughn to be better, because I know Rousseau had 2 sacks. But I need Vaughn to be more present for me, because the Bills are paying him to be this all, defensive guy. So I need him to be present on the line. And again, right. I understand that he is making everybody on that line present. But when it comes to Tua still continuing to, our front 4 needed to get there. And maybe, and they did. Don't get me wrong, they did get there, because we put Cheetah in his spot, wasn't a factor, but his other dude was a factor. Waddle was a factor. But I just need Vaughn to be more present. And I might be wrong in saying that, but I just need to just hear Vaughn's name more.
Right. So it sounds like we're going to talk about defensive line here and just the return on investments. And I gotta say this right now. I think that our guy Greg Rousseau had another pretty solid game. I'm trying to find his name on here to see if he had another sack. I'm pretty sure he had another sack. Yeah, he had 3 total tackles and 1.5 sacks. So Greg Rousseau, it's definitely starting to populate the stat boards a little more. And I agree with you, T. Von Miller, marquee free agent, coming off. We need to see more splash plays from him. But I mean, just his presence alone is opening other opportunities for the rest of these guys on the defensive line. You want to pay all this attention to Von Miller? Sure. Then, you're just building up the confidence for, AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Tim Settle, Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, and the rest of the gang, and Boogie Basham, so on and so forth. Daquan Jones. Like, I think I want to agree with you that I do agree with you that the Bills needed more out of that defensive line, but I really don't even think we've seen the best of this defensive line.
Let me ask you a question. If you think Jordan Phillips was in there, this game would have been different?
I think, yes, I really do. I think that the depth of this team was tested all the way to the practice squad, and when you pull people up from the practice squad, you're really just kind of trying to get by, right? Because realistically, and this is no shade towards anybody on the practice squad because you're 50 times the athlete I could ever be. But they can be picked up and signed onto the worst NFL team right now. But NFL teams haven't picked up the people we elevated. Why is that? Why is that, Justin?
Because they had quite a few guys playing in front of them on a regular basis. And I'm going to kind of respectfully disagree with T, but not disagree at the same time. I do think that we lacked.
You're terrible, Justin.
We lacked hearing Von's voice or his name today, right? But I think we have to look at that in the full context of the defensive line. I try not to ever look at the defensive line with individual players. And T, you asked Andrew, is it different if Jordan Phillips is in there today? I'm not sure if I can say, a 1-for-1, but when we're looking at how our defensive line attacks the opposition, when you're lining up against the other offensive line, you have Jordan Phillips and Ed Oliver, who are both kind of penetrating 3 techniques. You have to worry about them getting after the quarterback too. They're not just big boys in there to clog up running lanes. So if you have to play a little bit more Daquan Jones, who's going to, anchor down a spot and limit the run game.
I love Daquan Jones, by the way.
Love him. But that kind of frees up space to maybe, okay, we're going to let him gobble up space. We're going to put 2 people on Von Miller every play. We're going to swing 2 people over to Groot. And, Groot went out there and they listed as 1.5 sacks. That was definitely 2 sacks.
Because DeMar Hamlin. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this is more of it's more of a unit thing than an individual player. And when Von Miller is feasting, it's because they had to give attention to the other guys there. And when you take a couple of those guys out of the equation and you're able to lock in on Von Miller a little bit more, then yes, we have to see Groot win some of his matchups, which we saw today. But we usually see some of that penetration from Jordan Phillips. We see it from Ed Oliver. And when you start getting into, Tim Settle's a rotation guy there, we see some of that from him. We're down all of these guys, and it's too hard for me in a 1-game sample size with the injuries that we had to put it all on Von Miller while also being like, I wish I heard his name a couple more times today.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's transition a little bit further back here. So let's talk about the linebackers. And this is also, I guess, part of the defensive line. But Miami rushed the ball 17 times for 41 yards. Now, they got the 2 touchdowns off of 2 of those, but we're talking short yardage in general. But on average, 2.4 yards on average with backup, like practice squad elevated players and a depleted secondary. the linebackers, and I'm using Teron Johnson here as a quote-unquote linebacker because he kind of plays that, positionless role, kind of like, yeah, I'll be the, nickel corner, but I'm also going to be playing that linebacker thing. But I just thought that the linebackers had a pretty fine day, and if there's one missed opportunity from this group that I'm going to point out to, that I'm just like, damn, if they could have done that, that would have been the turning of the tides. Justin, I see you, nodding up and down. What am I talking about?
Talking about that Matt Milano pick six.
Yeah, that is
linebackers. Linebackers had a great day in my opinion.
T's got her hands on her head. She's like, oh my God, you don't even know. Like, the emotion that I just seen T go through. Well, T, tell me how you felt about that. Come on.
That was a changing of the game. That was.
Oh, yeah.
Any other time Milano has that ball. He did it He did it last game. Like, that was. It's like missed opportunities. Like, and Sean McDermott talked about winning your 111s and doing turnover battles. You have to win your turnover battles. And we didn't win our turnover battles because that was a turnover. Like, that right there was. That's why I guess for me it's crazy to me, because this game was in the reach for the Buffalo Bills to win. And as a fan,
times.
And as a fan, that. How do you think they feel as players?
Oh yeah.
You're gonna go back and look at this tape and say they didn't beat us.
Hell no.
You know what I mean?
But they did win.
Right. And that's the crazy thing about it. It's still a loss for the Bills.
Yeah.
So we take it as that. It's a loss. We have to say that's a loss. It's a loss. We're not, and it's still early. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. And now let's just transition to the back end here and the secondary. And again, Miami receiving 13 catches, 186 yards, on average 14.3 yards per catch. And, the big inflator here is Jalen Waddle, because he averaged 25.5 yards per catch. So the Bills definitely took the pick your poison. Let's not let the cheetah get us, because his sample size of breaking a game open is massive compared to a Jalen Waddle. And, Jalen Waddle definitely he got his. I will definitely concede that. But again, the Bills were kind of like they understood that what they were doing, and they gave up 21 points, which isn't a lot in today's NFL. Now, we're talking about 21 points, One of those shouldn't have happened, but I'll just say this. I thought the secondary performed as well as I would have expected. There's going to be a drop-off when you're missing a lot of talent out there, your starters. But for the depth that they played, for the skill level that they played up to, and if the media wants to make out Miami to be like this, new up-and-coming like threat with like the wide receivers of Hill and Waddle combo and all that stuff, I think the safeties, the corners, the rookies out there did fantastic, all things considered. So if you're upset out there, what are you upset about, right? I mean, yeah, we lost the game, but all things considered, again, we have
depth behind, like, and White's not back.
Yes.
Micah Mahide is gone. Jordan Poyer is he was out for this week, but we have depth. And that's what it was in training camp. They weren't playing in training camp, and that's when you had Johnson, you had Daquan, Johnson, and you had those guys in there because they weren't there in preseason.
Yeah,
so my comfort is that because we have depth in the back end. Am I going to miss Hyde? For sure, because they were a tandem. You know what I mean? But they didn't. They didn't cost or lose the game for us at all.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted them. I didn't want to see something like us drop from the best safety tandem to like 32. And I would argue that they played upper 15. Like, just going off this small sample size, I think they did fantastic. So, Justin, I don't know if you have any comments you want to add to the secondary's performance and the backup roles.
Oh, for sure. So you mentioned that, Miami put up 21 points today, right? And we're talking one of those touchdowns comes off of, a weird fumble inside our own 10. They're able to punch that in. Whatever, football's weird. But
God damn Melvin Ingram.
But when we're looking at, we have all of our top secondary out. Taron Johnson's the last man standing. And we have rookies back there. We have late round picks, all that. And when you're looking at this Miami team with Tyreek Hill, with Jalen Waddle, the speed that they bring to the table, I mean, none of us are going to sit here and say that the Ravens are a bad team, right? That same offense hung 42 on the Ravens last week. So going into this game, I know we have a tough matchup for our defense, right? And we have, this very young, untested secondary. We go into the game with 5 defensive starters out, and that's not even counting Trey White. Over half of our starting defense is out of the lineup, and our defense kept us in a position to win the game. And we've talked all about all the missed opportunities. Yes, but the Matt Milano should have been a pick 6. But as far as the secondary goes, I mean, outside of like 2 big hits for Jalen Waddle, we kept that whole passing game in check. I mean, 186 yards overall. I can't really find much to complain about there other than the fact that we don't come out of the other side with a win.
Yeah, let's talk about this last bucket here, miscellaneous goods, special teams. I'm not saying that this is what cost us the game, but we're talking about a very different outcome if that bobbled snap doesn't happen from Van Roten, I think, right? Van Groten, just, and Allen has to, spike it, or he can't spike it because it's fumbled. And then we're talking about the missed field goal from Tyler Bass, which I don't know what happened there, but that ball, when you kick a field goal, it goes north and south as if it's rotating. That thing went like west to east as it was rotating. So something weird happened in that operation. I don't know if he kicked it weird. I don't know if he looked in the sun, but I expected 3 points right there. But for some reason, as I'm watching this like setup, I'm just like, I don't have a good feeling about it. And
that
something
was weird.
happened.
That was weird.
Very strange. And then, just from a little comedy standpoint here, you see that missed throw from Allen. We already talked about that earlier, but then the Bills not being able to get back on the line to snap the ball for a potential game-winning field goal, which hurts so much. But then Ken Dorsey losing his brains out on.
How do you guys feel about that?
I actually think it's a good thing, and yet it's also a bad thing, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? It shows that he cares, right? It shows that he really wants this game. He cares about his craft. He wants this victory. He wants it bad. It's not like, a day-to-day thing with me and my job, right? If I can't finish my job, I'm like, all right, I'll just go work at it again tomorrow. That doesn't exist in the NFL. Like, you don't do your job, you don't carry out your duties on the day you work, you lose. And the bandwidth, or I should say the life cycle for coaching positions in the NFL are fairly short. There's short leashes to that. So he's probably upset. And I like it. Shows that he cares again. But at the same time, that reaction was pretty intense. Just pretty intense.
I like it because he's a football player. He played football. He played football. Mm-hmm. And I expect nothing less from you playing football and you being in that as a coach. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to criticize your passion for playing. I played a lot of sports. And if I see my coach go that hard about something, the next week, I'm going to do everything in my power to please my coach because he's passionate about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for people, and I'm not saying for you, people that may criticize that, because there's going to be tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of people talk about that, about Ken Dorsey, and saying, well, what's going on with him? I look at that and say, I'm going to do everything in my power to not piss him off to that anymore.
You know what it reminds me of?
I love that.
It kind of gives me the, oh God, why am I blanking out? Who's the head coach for the Lions?
Oh,
God. Campbell.
Yeah, Dan Campbell kind of vibes, biting kneecaps off, but like,
I love Campbell.
On the way back up, we're gonna get the other kneecap.
Yeah,
I love that dude, man. I watched Hard Knocks.
I haven't got a chance to watch this season of Hard Knocks, but I definitely want to. You know what's funny is that when I was watching it, I was like, okay, you know, again, like he cares. He obviously cares, and he's slamming the tablet down, and then he slams it down again. And then he does it again. And as he does it the third time, I'm thinking to myself of that meme. It's like, just stop. He's already dead. I'm like, Dorsey is pissed off right now. And what the icing on the cake, and I know Dolphins fans are going to run with this one, just the whole video in general, is that slight hand that comes over at the very end. Like, goes like, nothing to see here. Like... Oh my God!
Yeah, because they definitely was like, "Oh, we gotta stop it."
Oh, we're live right now.
Yes, we gotta stop that right now.
Yeah,
I'm glad we brought this up. I'm glad you asked about it, T, because when I was watching the game, my first reaction was like, "Oh hell yeah, this dude's fired up. Like he's coming back to work tomorrow, ready to go." And then as it like sat for a second, I was like. You know, they always say don't get too high, don't get too low. It's never as good as it looks, never as bad as it looks, somewhere in between. And I'm like, is this an overreaction? But as I was driving home, I was thinking about, like, what if we just, you know, saw Dorsey at the end of the game, you know, it wraps up, didn't work out, and he was just like, closed his notebook, taps his papers, and walked away. If that had happened instead of the fiery emotion, I'd be like, "Yo, what's wrong with this dude? We got to get him out of here." So, like,
yeah.
I can see the criticism for, like, getting too worked up, whatever, but I can't sign up for it. I love seeing the passion from him. If you expect it out of your players, they should expect it out of you.
Yeah, I don't want no vanilla type of reaction.
Yeah.
Because not even that. I think that Dorsey and Josh Allen is a perfect combination of each other. Because Josh Allen, when he missed that play, that shot to McKenzie, he took his helmet off and smashed it on the ground, and that's Ken Dorsey out there playing. So those two are definitely a combination of one another. So I don't expect nothing less from those two, and I love that passion as a fan because we missed it for so long. We've seen it. We kind of seen it when it came to Brian Dable, because Brian Dable was that guy. Like, he was the guy for the players, whatever. But this Ken Dorsey is different. Like, these guys, when they see that, these guys are going to play even harder for Ken Dorsey. Believe that. They're going to be like, yo, what? Got you. Because, man, listen, the next few games, because they're going to be pissed off. They're going to be you know what they do. You know what the Buffalo Bills do. You know what Josh Allen does. You know what Diggs does. They get pissed off. They're riled around each other, and they get pissed off because this is a game that they should have won. And they're going to get pissed off. You know.
All right. Before we wrap up today's episode, we do want to just, let's have a nice discussion about player of the game. T, you're our guest. Why don't you lead us off? Who do you think deserves that accolade?
Ooh, and I do this as well on my podcast. I do You Got It. So
yeah, you got it.
You got it. I don't even know. Like, I haven't thought about it, but I might just have to give it to Josh. And I typically don't do it for quarterback. I don't typically do our quarterback, because Josh Allen has games. But today, I might have to just give it to Josh, because Josh, although towards the end of the game, whatever, but he was slinging that rock like there was no other. So I might just have to give it to Josh Allen for sure. Josh Allen is that guy.
Yeah. Justin?
So I'm kind of in the same boat with you of try not to go Josh Allen every week, because we have a quarterback that's
so easy.
Yeah, he's in the MVP conversation. There's not as much peaks and valleys as there used to be with him. So I mean, you're looking at it. He accounted for 450 yards today. So it's always an easy pick. I'm gonna zig where you zag there. I got to give my nod to Devin Singletary today, and it's kind of in an unconventional way. You know, when we brought it up earlier, the rushing stats, he had 13 yards on the ground. But being a running back, leading the team in receptions and yards, hauling in a touchdown, and he's a guy that it's never as easy as just looking at the stat sheet to me, because of like what he does within each play. You know, it might be a 6-yard gain, but he made the first guy miss 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, then spun off a guy and broke a tackle. So I thought he had great contributions today.
Right.
That's my nod today.
Yeah, for me, and I love both of your answers. I really do.
Sucks going last on this one.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm gonna go with the game planning of today's approach. I really liked how they approached today's game plan. Let's take control of the rock. Let's play sound defense. I mean, again, we're talking about execution. That's what foiled this plan. The plan was perfect. It was ideal. But it wasn't executed to its full potential, right? So I think the game plan, control the clock. 40 minutes, 90 snaps, 500 yards. Again, on paper, that sounds amazing. The score being so low tells me no execution. And I'm going to lead off maybe we'll call this the You Don't Got It award. The You Don't Got It award here, it definitely goes to the tablet of Ken Dorsey. You are down for the count. You know, there are microchip shortages, and you just got your back cracked, just like one Tua. All jokes aside, I hope he's okay.
He did a Tom Brady and a Bill Belichick.
Yeah, oh my God, he made Tom Brady look like he was just having a minor hissy fit. Like
we're gonna have to order some new tablets.
Yeah, he really slammed that tablet. I'm just like, damn boy. Like, what about you guys?
For me, I'm gonna throw this one to I guess the strength and conditioning staff. Look, I know it's hot out there. I know the humidity's crazy, but all these missed opportunities and whatnot we want to talk about. I mean, there's just a myriad of guys that were kind of like either out of the lineup or in and out of the lineup, and it was cramping, it was, heat illness, whatever. We want to talk about all the injuries that we had going into the game. When we're trying to finish off a game, shuffling in entire, halves of the offensive line, we got Steph Diggs coming in and out of the game.
Yeah.
They talked a lot on the broadcast about, how McDermott preached it, but he can't make these guys drink water for the week leading up to the game. I don't know if I put that on the players or strength and conditioning. It's got to go somewhere, but I don't think I've ever watched a football game in my life where there were so many players that,
my God, yeah,
just had to come out of the game because they were cramping, they were dehydrated, whatever. And I think that was a huge factor into the game. So wherever that finger gets pointed, that's who does not got it.
I'm gonna have to piggyback you because I thought that I heard on the broadcast that they were trying to have them drink after that Tennessee Titans game. Start drinking because we're going to Miami, and I thought that pickle juice was supposed to be engraved into you drinking dehydrated, right? Like when Diggs went down, I was like, okay, I'm puzzled. And then Bates went down with Bates went down with a concussion or a head injury.
Yeah, I think something happened, something along those lines.
Right. So it was like, and I knew because as fans, we watch our team and we know Miami at this time in September is hot. So we understand like, and as fans, we see it. As players, you should understand like a week before that you're going to Miami, it's hot. They put it you on that side for a reason. So hydrate.
Yeah.
So
just a side comment to that. I think it's really hard for the Bills in Western New York to replicate the climate of Miami. Like I don't even know how you do something like that unless you take the Belichick approach.
What they said that they did this week was they turned the AC off for the Bills.
But it was such a cold week.
Right. So, I mean, I don't even, like, Sean McDermott, they do things to try to mentally get these guys prepared. So turning off the AC and whatever, like, we're fall right now. Like, the 21st was fall. So turning off the AC, that's nothing for them.
Turn on the heaters.
You know what? The You Don't Got It award definitely also goes to the HVAC guys out at One Bills Drive. You got to turn the heat up, man. Like, come on. Do your job.
For sure.
Do your job.
But we get them in December, so,
Yeah. It is what it is. But, and, I hope everyone comes out of this game healthy regardless of what logo you're wearing on your helmet because they're human beings too. And I saw, and this will be my last comment before we wrap up, I saw so many Dolphins fans like out there saying like, I bet like everyone's hyped that Tua's, coming out, and that was kind of a scary moment, right? Tua, like when he got up and he was wobbling up.
What was that? Because they said it was a back injury.
Yes.
That wasn't a back injury.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a back injury, but I could see where they're coming from. Because I guess on that QB sneak, his back locks up a little bit, and then when Milano pushes him down, weak call by the way on the roughing the passer, that was weak. He looks like he hits the back of his helmet, and then he gets up and he's wobbling up left and right, and people it's all over the place. Like the Dolphins reported he's in to get checked out for a head injury, but then someone's saying, oh, it's his back, and then someone else is saying, oh, it's his left leg locking out. And there's just too much going on. All I know is the man was not ready to play another couple of snaps.
The guy
so they
couldn't
brought
walk
him in.
a straight line. He couldn't walk a straight line. So I mean,
he looked like Mike Tyson just gave him the left hook, and I was like, what is going on with this guy? And nobody wants anyone hurt. And if that's what you want, like you can take a hike and take Mike Tyson. Take a Mike Tyson hook.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
My opinion there is like wag of the finger at the NFL, because that happened like right before halftime, right, where we're watching him try to walk and like he's got rubber legs underneath him. We go into halftime, and I made a comment about this because right before they came back into halftime, they did this NFL commercial about how they're always improving helmets and concussions are down over the last however many years, whatever. And then right after that commercial, they're like, Tua's coming back into the game. And I was like,
are you?
I'm not a doctor. I'm not on the field. Maybe it wasn't a concussion, but I've seen a lot of concussions, and that looked like a concussion to me, and that he probably should have had the rest of the day off.
Yeah, I don't know. And strictly from a health perspective, we'll talk about this quickly, is that like if it was a head injury, we're talking about one more play that could have potentially ruined this guy's life.
Correct.
One more play.
Look at Micah Hyde.
it's
Let's
really
be
not
honest.
worth
It's
a
not worth
W
it.
or a loss.
It's not.
And I'm not saying
it's
this
the
like
third
just,
game, bro. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
and that's where I think the Bills are taking their injury approach. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Anyways, T, thanks so
And not
much.
even that. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Finish up your thought. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's a third game, you know, and for most fans, when it comes to Miami, it's like you beat Buffalo, and now you guys are Super Bowl contenders. Great. I'm glad you guys feel that way. And then you know what? I guess for us, when we were done with the Patriots, when we won against the Patriots, and we were all excited about it, and we had to face them again. If we beat them again, yes, we're there. So I get how Miami is, how many Miami fans are when it comes to the Buffalo Bills. But we got to see them again, you know, and it's a win. And I'm just going to just say that. It's a win. We got to just chuck it up as a win. They won, and we move on.
It is
We're
what it
moving
is.
on. Yeah,
Hey,
for sure.
in the AFC East, and I'm gonna take this from a Whittle from on Twitter, Whittle. And I think you know what I'm talking about. We are the supervillains.
You've been in spaces with me, so I know.
Yeah, we are the supervillains. I love that. All right, T. Thanks again so much for being on this
Yeah, for
episode.
sure. Thank you, guys.
We really
I
appreciate
appreciate
it. Yeah, we appreciate you too. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you, your podcast, all the stuff that you do, and when they can find you on Twitter Spaces, because I love what you got to say, of course.
Thank you. So we go live on Thursdays at 2:00 on Facebook on the Build in Buffalo Network. The pod drops on Saturday. We are on the Build in Buffalo Network again. Listen, there's a lot of content over there. Check us out. I'm on Twitter. Follow me. I'll follow you back. CSL on BIB. But yeah, I love these guys. I love their work. They are the real dudes. So yeah, thank you guys for allowing me to speak, allowing me to be on your podcast.
Yeah, many thanks. That's again T. Estelle from Not Your Average Podcast in the 716. Find her on most social media and podcasting platforms, and of course on YouTube, Facebook Live, all that good stuff. She's awesome. Justin, where can the people find you?
You can find me on any social media at jgods22. And I want to wrap up tonight. I'm going to steal one from you, Andrew, because this loss sucks right now. But you always say this, and it's been in my mind all day. And you always talk about how you learn more about yourself in a loss than in a victory. And Bills Mafia, this one stings right now. But just look at all the circumstances. Look at what this team is going to learn from this. The adversity that we're kind of going through. We're coming out the other side. Just because of this one loss doesn't mean we ain't going to the Super Bowl. Go Bills.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long, long season. And you can find me on social media by searching up Two Changs. This podcast by searching up the Wandering Buffalo Podcast on YouTube or social media. Again, we are presented by 26 Shirts. Go check them out. We are part of the Buffalo Fan Base Network. Thank you for listening. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.